Good evening, everyone. Tonight is June 17th. It is 7 p.m. We're having the Londonderry Town Council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you guys can continue to please stand, I'd like to have a moment of silence for our town employees and the school employees. I know that we're just coming into summer break, especially on the school side, and a really tough year that they've had, and really appreciate what they've done, as well as our town staff and what they continue to do here. So, thank you. Please be seated. All right, so folks, we have a pretty healthy agenda tonight. We'll start off with a proclamation honoring the Londonderry High School softball team. So I've asked Sean Faber to read that, and then once we're done, if the coaches and players could come up and take a picture with the council, if that's all right, for our social media, and be presented with the proclamation. So with that.
Honoring the Londonderry High School softball team. Whereas the Londonderry High School began its softball program in 1981, and over the years the team has shown remarkable dedication and perseverance. And whereas the Londonderry High School softball team made 3 previous appearances in the championship game. And whereas during the 2023 to 2024 season, the Londonderry High School went on to win their final game, earning their first Division I state championship. And whereas the team achieved an outstanding overall record of 20-2 for the season, finishing the regular season with a 17-2 record and securing the number 1 spot for the playoffs. And whereas in the playoffs, the Londonderry High School softball team went undefeated with a 3-0 record, scoring 22 runs and only allowing 2 runs. And whereas seniors Liv Catelli and Zoe Nelson have provided exceptional leadership and skill, contributing greatly to the team's success and setting a strong foundation for the future of Londonderry High School softball. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed by the Londonderry Town Council on their recognition for the Londonderry High School softball team on their remarkable achievement in winning the Division I state championship and for their exemplary performance throughout the season. Signed this day, 17th of June, 2024, at the town of Londonderry, New Hampshire, and the witness, therefore, and seal and signature of the town of Londonderry and its town council.
So, just a couple quick things. We'll have the girls and coaches come up. Phenomenal season, phenomenal job, great work. I know a lot of hard work from everybody was put in this, to include your family, so good work. And it was great to see just also the support from our first responders, sending you guys off to your championship as well as the return home. So if we could bring the council in.
Yeah, as the father of daughters who went through a lot of softball games over the years, you ladies are amazing. All right, and thank you for representing our town in such an amazing way and a great season.
All right, everybody.
So is one of you want to hold the
There's a lot of you.
There you go.
All right, ready, everybody? All right, hold on 1 second. Let me try. I said a lot of you guys. It's awesome, though. All right, one last one. Very cool. Thank you.
Awesome. So we're missing one signature. Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you, ladies.
Coaches.
Good one. Yeah, great job.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Good work. So we're missing.
Congrats.
No, you did all the hard work.
Good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Again, phenomenal job. So y'all can stay if you want. If not, I'm sure we're probably going to lose. They've been put through enough. So if you guys want to leave, you're free to go. All right, and all of a sudden, half the room is gone. All right, so folks, just a reminder, we do have a packed agenda tonight. So I just want to, we're going to roll into public comment. We'll do it as we standard with these topics. So the warrant articles, the petition, citizens petitions. We are going to talk about warrant article number 22 regarding the removing the word advisory from the budget committee. In accordance with RSA 40:14b, that states the budget committee shall create default budgets. So this is again a citizens petition that was on the warrant article, or I'm sorry, on the ballot as a warrant article in March, the March election. Last meeting, the petitioner did share that they were going to move forward with getting the required signatures. I do appreciate there had been a member from the public. I did not originally have this on this meeting's agenda as stated. They were going to move forward with the required signatures to do a charter amendment on the budget. But I was asked to have a discussion at least about this, so we did put that on the agenda. So that was the change from what was sent out previously. So with that, if there's anyone that would like to talk about this specific warrant article.
I'd just like to remind some people of some of the rules around how we operate government. Many of you may not know we're called what's called a Dillon Rule state. The Dillon Rule is the principle that local government only exercises powers expressly granted by the state. So that means the legislature has to grant us powers. Powers necessarily and fairly implied from the grant of power. The power is crucial to the assistance of local government. Many of you may not know the Dillon Rule was named after Justice Dillon in the Iowa State Supreme Court. The only states in the Northeast that are home rule states, which means the town can do what they want, are Massachusetts and New Jersey. 38 states in the country apply some form of the Dillon Rule. When we talk about these warrant articles, there's been a number of discussions saying, what do they mean? Part of it is that they're non-binding. So the legal term for non-binding is they are not legally necessary to obey or follow. A non-binding resolution, referendum, or recommendation. The committee's vote is non-binding. Advisory only. These warrant articles were advisory only. The advisory opinion has no force of law but is given in the matter of courtesy. A private citizen cannot get an advisory ruling from a court and can only get rulings from an actual lawsuit. Interestingly, back in the 90s, there was a non-binding advisory warrant article for the power plant. Everybody knows we have a power plant in town, right? 80 to 90% of the people voted on that there should be no power plant. To this day, there's still the power plant in town. It's a little hard to find. And they've paid us over $125 million in tax revenues. What I'm saying here is that it's not that we're not listening. It's not that I haven't said open up the charter. What I'm saying is that we're following the rule of law. It is dictated by the state that we follow. Keep that in mind as we're looking at these articles. We're only doing our due diligence and doing what we're supposed to do. Follow the law.
All right, thank you. So again, reminding everyone we are in public comment. If there's anyone that would like to speak on warrant article 22, please come forward.
Will there be 2 public comments like last meeting?
Great question. Yes, there will be 2 public comments like last meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to regular general public comment. As you come up, you have... Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Please. Thank you.
Dennis Martin, 182 Pillsbury Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire. I'm just back here to find out when I made a comment a few meetings ago about what we're going to do about the rubbish on the side of the road. Was there any discussion about using the Department of Public Works or even getting prisoners to come in and work on the roads? Nobody's brought it, and I wish the media would bring something about this to the attention, because all I see on Facebook, in the Londonderry, New Hampshire Facebook, is people screaming about how bad the roads are with rubbish around here. So I'm hoping that there'll be some type of discussion on this, where, you know, I know they have the volunteers that do it, but now they're only down to 1 day a year now. That's it. That's just not enough to clean the roads. I said at the last meeting, if you use the Department of Public Works for 1 month, and a man of a crew of 4 or 5 people, they you know, pick some month in the before and after the spring, you'll get these roads cleaned in no time and within a month. Okay, that's it.
I know we typically don't get in a Q&A during public comment, but I would like to provide some feedback if that's all right. I did talk to the director of DPW, not specifically about this, but just maintaining the relationship that I have. And their workload, given their amount of staff and everything, to maintain our roads and everything else is pretty significant. You had mentioned the Beautify Londonderry, I think is what you were referencing. Mike, if I may, or Kelly or Cheerston, what is the frequency of the Beautify Londonderry meetings? Do you know?
To my knowledge, Beautify meets once a month. And I think Mr. Martin is correct, though, that the annual pickup is a once a year affair at this point in time.
Have you talked to them? And I can reach out to
I've
their
helped
chair.
them out. I've helped them out in the past. Matter of fact, I helped them out a few years ago, and I did the road. They had it for 2 days, and then there was a talk about doing 2 more days later in the season, like in the fall. And now what I understand, talking to people that have, you know, that they're only down to 1. They did 1 Saturday this year, and that was it. But there's other options. You know, you can get a hold of the prisons and get prisoners to clean the roads. It won't cost the taxpayer anything. You just got to make the contact to the prisoners or the guy that runs the program, and you know, and people, you know, it's not prisoners that are lifers that are, you know, been put away for life. They're usually people that had DWIs, short term, 3 or 4 months, and they do it because they get more time off from their jail sentence if they do it each day. I think it works out for each day you do, you get a day off, you know, a day taken from your sentence. That's something that we can look into. I don't think, you know, I know it happens in other towns.
Yeah. My concerns is just the legal, like the legal consequences of that. But here's what I can offer. Can we look into that program?
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to do it through my office. I do think that, to your point, Beautify Londonderry is sort of the body that has jurisdiction here or has the expertise, and I do think it would be worth getting Beautify's input on such a proposal. Maybe they do have the bandwidth, and they're just, you know, for whatever reason, there's been turnover. I don't know, but I know that, you know, it's a successful event once a year. I wonder if it could be expanded, and if not, as you point out, let's hear what they have to say about the other options. If the council directs me, I will happily reach out to the county sheriff and see what the program is. But I would respectfully suggest that it go through Beautify so that we can benefit from their collective expertise.
Mr. Martin, if it's all right, I'd like to reach out to the chair of Beautify Londonderry and see if there's something that we can do to maybe create more awareness and create an additional day or 2 for that for trash pickup. Because I agree. I mean, I wasn't part of the Beautify Londonderry team on the day that they did, but my whole neighborhood collected trash from High Range on Litchfield, from High Range to the Manchester line, and there was a lot of.
I think what some of the problem is Beautify, they do a great job, and they're really well organized, but. First, they can't get the volunteers that they used to get. I don't think they're getting as many. I could be wrong on that, but they don't hit the roads. They basically do within a 5-mile radius or something, and it's the same people that do the same streets. Mm-hmm. Now, there was other roads, you know, Gilcrest and other roads around that are main roads that you see the rubbish everywhere, and they're probably, too, one of the reasons probably why they don't go there, and I'm only, you know, assuming this, that the roads might be a little too dangerous. You know, when I went out and I did all of Pillsbury Road one year. I did it from High Range all the way to Mammoth Road. Then I went on the other side of Pillsbury, and I did that corner. You know, the corner where they put the sign on Pillsbury and I don't know, it's Gilchrist, I think. They put the signs, the political signs, that right
Yeah.
there, and that street. I did that, and I, you know, they give you a big yellow shirt. Hopefully, people see that. But
So
you
what-
gotta, you gotta,
what
you gotta
I'll
be
do-
careful, huh?
What I'll do is I'll reach out to the chair, Beautify Londonderry, have a conversation. Is it council all right if asking Mike to look into that? Have someone from your staff to do
Yeah,
that?
of course, happy to do that. And again, just to provide a little bit more information, Mr. Martin is exactly right. They do limit the streets that they do based on the speeds, some of the speeds and the dangerousness. And I think the other factor that's at play here is we don't, have jurisdiction over every road in town. We do have state roads, and those are, obviously under state control. So I will dig into this and report back to the council in July, and happy to help.
And Councilman Dunn has my phone number. You know my phone number. I'm on speed dial with you. So, and Mike knows who I am too. So I can be reached if you need me to come work with Londonderry, Beautify Londonderry, or I could talk with Chuck.
The sales.
I'll go over and talk to Chuck and see what kind of programs they are. I'll ask him and get a number of somebody that you can make a contact, and I'll bring it to you, Mike.
Yeah,
in your
absolutely.
office. Is that all right?
Just update you guys. Beautify Londonderry now has a full staff, a full committee.
Great.
We the last 2 meetings prior to today's meeting, we weren't able to have legal meetings because we didn't have a quorum. So because the council expanded, added 2 alternates, now we have a full. We're missing 1 alternate, but now Beautify Londonderry is back, and we had a couple people that were ill.
Yeah,
So,
you worked with them.
Yeah.
Now, how many people did they show up? You said that day. Do you remember how many people?
I think that
Day we had about 110 people, 112 people help us clean.
That's a good turnout.
phenomenal. Yeah.
But they're not doing it again.
We're not at the fall. We're doing one.
Oh,
Well,
you are doing
are
one
you
in the fall.
you are the liaison?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll ask Ron. Can you
Absolutely.
reach out to them?
Absolutely.
And, see
Be
if,
happy to.
if we can add. Maybe
I
a
know
third.
that the one he's talking about, we had trouble because we didn't have a full committee.
Yeah.
And
No.
now we basically have a full committee. We're 1 alternate short, but,
Yeah,
and
the-
as far as the roads go, a lot of the ones that have high traffic, like High Range Road, we had a couple volunteers to go to High Range Road, but we don't want to send anybody to High Range Road, and have everyone get hurt. But we had a few volunteers that willing to go out there and pick on High Range Road, but those are harder roads when there's a lot of traffic.
Another solution too, I think, could be, I'm on Pillsbury, and I swear to God, I clean out the front of my. I go about 50 feet one way, 50 feet the other way, and 2 weeks later, there's rubbish back out there. But if people who lived on Pillsbury and these roads that they can walk out and clean up the front of their yard, would do it, but they just don't do it. And so I feel that I'm responsible for cleaning out the front of my property, and even though it's town property, but I wish some of the I'm just bringing this to the attention, and that people have to make the effort too if they're living on these roads to clean them.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely,
You
I'll
got
do that. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? Good evening.
Tony DeFrancesco, 1 Cheshire Court. To the gentleman's point, my recollection is the town doesn't own the land in front of somebody's house. They have a right of way. That's 2 different things. You pay taxes all the way to the road. The town doesn't own it. It's a right of way. At any rate, I wanted to talk about the advisory warrant articles just in general, which is why I didn't get up to speak last time. And I want to tag on Mr. Farrell's, Council Farrell's comment about those advisories have no obligation for you to act. You know that. The big difference in my 44 years in town, 45 years now, the difference on this one was there was no chance for public hearings or people to understand what they were. There was no chance for advertising about what it was, how it worked, why it was there, how it was there. There was no conversation about it at all. And the reason why I'm here is because Councilor Coombs last meeting made a comment about people didn't know what they were voting for. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, and I told this account at a planning board meeting several meetings ago where I met a gentleman at the post office who asked me why there was no public comment at a planning board meeting. And I explained to him that there was, explained to him how it worked. He asked me about the rest of them. Now, unfortunately, this was several months after voting had already taken place. His comment was, well, if I had known that, I might have voted differently. On some of them, I definitely would have voted differently. And so on this one, I think it's important to understand that the voters, in this case, they were the advisors, because this thing was advisory. So the voters were the advisors. They're not the decision makers. You are the decision makers. And I think it's important to understand that the votes, if you gave it to a statistics person, if you gave it to a person who does surveys, they would probably tell you, and I've asked a few, and they would probably tell you, because they told me, that what you had was information that wasn't valid because of the way that it was done. And when I asked questions further, part of it came about by the fact that there was no conversations before the vote. And we know for a fact, many of the people that voted, some knew for sure what was going on, but many that voted did not know what was going on. And so the information that you have, well, 1,900 people voted yes, and so you need to follow the will of the people, is not true. Because in this case, it was advisory, and the advisors are not the decision makers. Certainly, you're doing the right thing by having these forums now to talk about them, and apparently no one wanted to talk about the one tonight because it may or may not be legal. But please keep that in mind and understand that the will of the voters and the will of the taxpayers and the will of the citizens of Londonderry may or may not have been shown in those advisory votes. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks who are still in public comment, is there anyone else that'd like to address the council? Good evening.
Good evening. Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. Are we still speaking about the advisory warrant articles?
No one came up for that, so this is just the general, so whatever
Well, I mean,
you choose.
somebody just did speak about that, right? Yeah. Okay, so to say that the voters didn't know what they were voting on, I mean, perhaps you could say that about a lot of things that the voters vote on. I mean, somebody could say that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think for the most part, the voters are pretty well informed. Sometimes it's kind of confusing. That's true. Sometimes I'm confused. Am I confused this evening? That could be someone's opinion. But nevertheless, it's very important that the voters are listened to. And the fact that perhaps everybody that voted on that warrant article didn't understand it, that could be true. I won't dispute that. But there were probably a lot of people that did vote on it that did understand it. So I think we need to be careful about how we decide some of these things that the voters vote on. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breslin.
Thank you, Ray.
Anyone else? Chief, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. So, Bo Butler, Fire Chief. I just have 2 quick command updates for you guys. First one, in the business of risk identification and risk mitigation. So, as you know, we have a heat wave approaching us, and as a result, the town decided to take the preemptive step to activate our cooling centers for the community in the event that they're needed. The way it works here in Londonderry, we have 4 town buildings that act as cooling centers depending on the time a citizen calls with a need. These are the library, the senior center, LPD's community room, and the training room at Central Station. So depending on the time that a citizen calls in need of a cooling center, we'll direct them appropriately. We put a notice out this afternoon with Chairston on the town's social media platforms, just letting the public know that we will have cooling shelters open starting tomorrow at noon and then concluding probably around Saturday, but we'll play that by ear if we need to extend. If anyone has any questions or a need, we'd like them to call Central Fire at 432-1124. And then the next one, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the alert team. And Al and Remy, if you could come up for a second. I just want to speak to the work that the alert team does for the town of Londonderry. So with me tonight, we have the president of the alert team, Remy Fortin, and Chief Al Sypek, the vice president. What alert is, it's a dedicated group of citizen volunteers who, in my mind, are part of the public safety mission and civil protection for the community. This group of dedicated volunteers, they have missions like search and rescue in the Musquash, traffic control during election day. You'll see them out there waving cars onto park, Old Home Day support, and Concert on the Commons. So most recently, it kind of popped into my mind that what these guys do, a lot of the community doesn't know that they do. So Concert on the Commons, for example, it gets dark, so we deploy our light generators at Pillsbury and Mammoth, and then at Mammoth in front of the churches so that people can be seen as they cross the street at night. Well, recently I added the setup and demobilization of those lights to the alert team. And these two guys come in, they change the filters on the generators, put new oil in them, totally service these generators, and now are charged with setting them up. And it's just another example of how the alert team goes above and beyond for the community. And we're very, very lucky because there again, these are unpaid volunteers that are so critical to the operations of the community. So I just wanted to thank these guys publicly and let the community know what they do. So
Thank you.
thank you, gentlemen. You guys still meet the third Thursday of every month at the PD, correct?
Yes.
And that's probably the best place where if somebody has a question or wants to become a member to come and see you guys at?
Yes.
There you go. And it keeps some retired guys busy with the additional...
So, Chief, and a little bit.
We also have a website.
Oh, Chief, yes, that's
that
right there.
explains exactly what we do and even has membership applications.
So
Check it out.
they do a ton for the community.
One
so I
more
just
thing
wanted
for
to-
the alert team is that back a couple of years ago we had some parking lot issues and everything surrounding Concerts on the Common, and Mr. Casey, who's in the audience, will remember this, that we needed to have a plan, and frankly we didn't have a plan. Then we were growing from 100 to 500 to 900 people, and we came up with well, if we just ask alert, let's see if they'll help. And so in speaking with Mr. Fortin and everything else, we asked. There was no hesitation.
Nope.
And they stepped right up, and Concerts on the Common continues to grow because they're helping. The police department's there, the fire department's there. People are really seeing what the community's about. So thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, that's all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're still in public comment.
Larry Casey, 35 Forest Street. I am the chair of the Arts Council, and I just want to echo what's been said about the alert team. They've just been phenomenal in supporting what we're doing on the Common every week. We've all had very, very serious concerns about public safety, especially helping people with disabilities get safely onto the Common. These guys have just done a phenomenal job of setting up and making that happen. And at the end of the concerts, and as the season progresses, the sun goes down a little bit earlier. And later in the season, one of the major concerns we've had for years now is getting people safely off the Common. One of my great fears that I've shared with John is that a young child will bolt from their parents and run across Mammoth or Pillsbury Road with oncoming traffic, and we feel feel rest assured now that these guys have it under control, and it's not going to happen. And our audience numbers have been growing exponentially since COVID was over, and we expect that trend to continue. So having the support of not just the alert team but everybody in the community, fire and police, is just essential to having a successful event. So I want to thank everybody for the contributions they make to that program.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Casey. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Move on to section C, appointments, Lions Hall Study Committee interviews. So we have 5 positions for the ad hoc Lions Hall study, or the Reverend Morrison House, and 2 alternates. Everyone should have received, and in their packets, just the applicants. So we'll go through the list and conduct our interviews. If I could have John Blay please come up. So as John makes his way up here, what we ask typically during these interviews is for you to take 2 to 3 minutes to introduce yourself, express why you'd like to be on and continue to serve the community in this capacity as the ad hoc. If the council has any questions, we'll ask you upon completion of your little intro, and then we'll continue with that. So with that, is it Blay?
John Blay, B-L-A-Y.
Thank you, sir.
20 St. Andrews Way in Londonderry.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It seemed like a good idea to be involved with this study committee. I am currently the secretary of the Londonderry Lions Club, and I've been a member of the Lions Club for 26 years. I've been involved with multiple upgrades and maintenance on the hall over the years. It occurred to me that it would be probably a good idea, utilizing the experience that I've got, that I might be of some value to the committee.
Okay. Is there any questions from the council for John?
Could you describe some of that experience?
Well, the Londonderry Lions Club has been renting the hall to individuals and groups for well over 50 years. And we took that revenue, the revenue from hall rental went directly to hall maintenance. Whatever had to be done. Now, there's a lot of things that need to be done right about now, but over 50 years it was a considerable job and done reasonably well. I came on to the book somewhere around 1998, and they were in the process of installing siding on the outside of the hall and new windows on the main hall itself. We also built a handicapped ramp. It's in the back of the building and allows people. I've heard somebody said it's not up to code, which I'm not surprised because this was done a few years ago, but it allowed people access to the hall on wheelchairs, which is imperative. This has to happen. We built a handicapped bathroom inside the hall, just as you step in the front lobby. We did a lot of other things, plumbing, some electrical. The building originally was built in the 1700s, and I think it was carried over to where it is now, somewhere in the middle of 1800s, so it needs a lot of work. Mm-hmm. We made it livable. We did a lot of things to it that we needed to do. Of course, then the floor collapsed, And that's a whole different situation. We didn't have a budget for that. But I thought that we have done quite a bit to the hall, and I've got a list if you need it, but we can get it to you.
Oh, no, just in general. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got a quick question. This committee has a lot to do in a short amount of time. You put on here you can only meet once a month. Can you meet more than once a month? Because this committee is probably going to have to meet more than once a month to meet the turnaround time.
That's doable.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, John, for yours. So, thank you for all your service.
All right, thank you, John. Mr. Dan Bouchard.
He's not here.
He is not here. Thank you very much. Ray Breslin. Mr. Breslin, sir. In the hopper, we'll have Larry Casey, followed by Ann Champa. So if you could just get ready in that order once Mr. Breslin's done. Good evening, sir.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive.
So just like before, a little brief 2-3 minute intro on why you want to be on this committee and how you think you'll contribute to the committee, and we'll open up to the council for questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think it's an important issue. We have to kind of balance out cost versus what the building is going to be used for. It is a historic building. I put in for an alternate. There may be others that have more information or have more concerns about it, but I think it's an important issue that should be looked at. There's probably a lot of questions that need to be discussed in regards to cost in particular. There's been discussion about tearing the building down. That's a possibility too, but that is going to take a lot of cost to address that if that's what we're going to do. And then you would have a lot that could be used for parking, but there's a lot of things to look at, and I think it's important to have the discussions. I think there's others that maybe have more background or information, but I put in as an alternate because I think it's of concern.
Thank you. Any questions from the council for Mr. Breslin?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray.
Mr. Casey, sir.
Thank you. I'm still Larry Casey. I still live at 35 Forest Street. My wife and I moved to Londonderry in 1985. We raised 3 children here. I spoke to my feelings about the Lions Hall in a letter to the editor last August. I won't reiterate everything that's in there, but I think that's included in my package. My background is I have a BA from UMass Amherst. I have an MBA from UMass Lowell. I spent my career selling 2 and 4 Fortune 500 companies in the chemical, computer, and professional services industries. I have served on the behalf of the school district on a long-term basis in the Technology Steering Committee. I was a member of the ad hoc committee that did the auditorium study many years ago. I've been a long-standing member of the Londonderry Arts Council and currently am the chair of the Arts Council. You'll find me on the Common most Wednesday nights, except for this Wednesday. We're going to move it indoors and we're going to shift to Thursday because of the weather conditions. My reason for being involved or asking to be involved in this committee is that I think that obviously this is an historic building that should be preserved and restored. I took that picture from the town common at the concert last week, and there's a little bit of a sliver of the audience there, but to me it's a real treasure. It completes the picture of the town, the true town center. I know we have a Main Street over in Woodmont somewhere, but to me this is an integral part of the image and history of our community, and I'd like to see it renovated and restored. Personally, I would like to see it utilized as a community center, not just for the Arts Council, but for other non-commercial organizations in town, whether they be, sanctioned town committees or organizations, but also other organizations in town that can benefit from an up-to-date, compliant building where they can meet, perhaps hold events. But I really see this as an opportunity to bring the people of Londonderry together in a community center, much like we do with Concerts on the Common. I mean, we're pulling 600 people a week on average to the town center. I'm not saying that we're going to do the same thing with the Lions Hall, but I really see this as a potential magnet for community engagement. So that's my motivation for asking to be involved in this.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions from the council?
Good.
Mr. Casey, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Champa? Good evening.
Good evening. Too heavy to stand with that. Ann Champa, 28 Wedgewood Drive. Since 2014, I've been personally invested in promoting this historic town resource as a most valuable town asset. It's been 10 years since the Lion Hall floor last sagged and a contractor ripped out all the hardwood flooring, then 2 layers of white pine flooring, and all the original hand-hewn floor joists underneath, circa 1770 approximately. Thanks to Councilor Jim Butler, we were able to rescue 38 of the hand-hewn floor joists from the dumpster and bring them down to the Morrison House Museum and save them for future restorations. This book of photos chronicles what happened 10 years ago. Steve Cotton gave me a copy of all the photos for history's sake and presented it to the Historical Society. Then the second issue with the floor. I've explored the Lions Hall from the front entryway to the back door and from the floor joists to the incredible roof trusses in the attic with an eye towards restoration. More recently, I brought preservationists and Londonderry town officials to meet together to see the possibilities within the walls of the Lions Hall, and another time brought them over to the circa 1769 First Parish Meeting House in East Derry to learn about the ongoing preservation efforts there and funding sources possible. That building was constructed about the same time as our Lions Hall. I've worked with leaders in the field of historic preservation as president of the Londonderry Historical Society, and I'm looking forward to exploring the potential uses, restoration avenues, and maintenance and funding options for what we know as the circa 1769-70 Reverend William Morrison's Meeting House, the Londonderry, New Hampshire Town Hall, and the Lions Hall. This, the most important historic building in our town of Londonderry's history. I've worked with quite a few people in the preservation field, like James Garvin, former New Hampshire State architectural historian, and Bill Flint, William Flint, dendrochronologist for historic Deerfield, on the 24 Road Griffin Cape that was listed in town records as circa 1721, quote, the earliest house in Londonderry in the records, but debunked by core samples that Bill Flint took from the timber frame parts of the house, which indicated a date a century younger. I also brought in Aaron Sturgis, owner-president of Preservation Timber Framing, to do a framing drawing, assessment, and phasing plan of the Historical Society's circa 1725 Perry House timber frame parts that the Society has stored in 2 trailers behind the R.P. Clark & Sons blacksmith shop on our grounds at 140 Pillsbury Road. With that knowledge of the timber frame, illustrated by Preservation Timber Framing, Bill Flint again was able to take core samples from specific timber frame parts of the circa 1725 Perry House, dating it to no earlier than circa 1732, and that wasn't too far off from the original listing of 1725. I've also dealt with Bob Pothier, owner of First Period Colonial, who helped restore the interior of the Morrison House Museum building after it was moved from its earlier site at 204 Rockingham Road, and who started on the foundation, first floor decking, and restoration of some main beams of the Perry House. And finally, with that, Andrew Cushing. He's New Hampshire Preservation Alliance's Community Preservation Services Manager. He's the gentleman I brought to the meeting I held with town staff at the Lions Hall last December. He's willing to work with us on this project if we're serious about preserving it. This is the key to help in funding this building's preservation and restoration.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
We're good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, next we have Derek Deanna. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Deanna.
Deanna, thank you.
Derek Deanna, 5 Brayburn Drive. So I've been in Londonderry for 37 years now, born and raised. As being younger, I always wanted to, get out of Londonderry because you always thought it was boring. But then as you got older and I had kids, you find out that it's the perfect town to have kids. I remember being in town and everybody was excited when the Taco Bell KFC came into town, because that was the next big thing. But now looking back at it, having that good balance that I think we have of, the historical part of Londonderry, which is, right over here, and then the new part of Londonderry, really keeping that balance. And I want to be a part of that, right? And I think that something like this is, we can preserve but also utilize, which I think would be great for us. I love having people come to my house for cookouts, having to drive through that center of town. A lot of my friends live in Massachusetts where I used to work, and they come through and they're like, oh, your town's so beautiful. You have that center of town. We don't have that anymore. That's gone, right? So I want to be a part of keeping that. Professionally, I'm the Director of Quality and Operations for a company called Pica. I've been in medical device for my entire career, having to either build brand new medical facilities, brand new manufacturing facilities, offices, things of that nature, being the lead on the projects for that. Internally for the town, I do coach at the Londonderry Middle School as well, soccer. I just really want to give back to the town and be a part of the town that I was born and raised in, and plan on staying in for a long time. That's really about it.
Any questions from the council? All right, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much.
Next, we'll have Mr. Ellis, Dave Ellis, or David. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to sit. I can't stand long.
Please.
I'm Dave Ellis. I live at 1 Wilshire Drive. I've been in the town since 1982. I'm a member of the Historical Society and an amateur historian. The reason I want to be on this committee is because I understand in detail its history from the time it was built right up through to about 1973 or 4. I believe that there's not much of an appetite in the town at the moment for spending large amounts of money. The building does need to be preserved and restored. I am absolutely committed to that. In order for that to be successful, we've also got to consider how it becomes useful to the town. It needs to be put into some form of public service ultimately so townspeople can use it. Nobody's going to spend money to have it sitting there empty doing nothing. I'd like to be on the committee mainly to bring in the historical thing, but also to be receptive about where do we go once we've preserved it.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Is there any questions from the council at this time?
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right. Next, we have Dan Gore. Dan? Good evening.
Good evening. Dan Gore, 8 Lane Way. I have to say I've never been this far down in the alphabet. It's astounding. I don't know what it is about this committee. Anyway, so my background that's relevant to this process, many years of working with event spaces and various uses of event spaces, including 10 years of working for Up With People and planning events right here in Londonderry, throughout the state, throughout the nation, throughout the world, and looking at different pros and cons and aspects of event spaces and what works, what doesn't work, what are limitations and uses. Also, more recently in working with our business, Ovation Theater Company, in working with various event spaces, both inside and outside Londonderry, since we have so few in Londonderry. Actually, we don't have any theater performance spaces in Londonderry. And so that's a full disclosure. It's why I'm wearing Ovation garb today, because I want everyone to know what I represent. I do have 26 years here in Londonderry as well, have spent some time in this facility in various events and things. I have a huge investment in public spaces, as I've indicated already, and a big concern about where we're lacking in town, as one of the only towns in the state of New Hampshire that does not have a theater or performing arts space. And so I believe that there's an opportunity here represented with this building to both preserve and respect the history, but to do even more with it. There's room on that property to actually expand and do more with a larger space. And I think that we have a real opportunity there. As a both resident and business owner in town, I'm very sensitive to tax impacts because I'm doubly impacted by that. Owning 2 properties in town, but I also think that we're at a place where we have a sense in the town over the last 26 years that I've lived here, I guess, but certainly the last 10 to 15, I've never wanted to spend any money on anything without considering that there are other revenue sources and tax opportunities, including everything that's been done in the Gateway Business District, which is continuing to generate more tax revenue, sponsorship opportunities and things like this, where we don't have to necessarily raise personal taxes beyond people's capacity, but we can actually still invest in our community. And I think that there's a sense in our community that no one will pay for anything. I don't believe that's really true. I just think we have to figure out how to do it, how to fund it, and what's best for our community.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
Thank you, Dan.
I do have kind of a rhetorical question, but I think the public would benefit from hearing about it. You mentioned performing arts a little bit, and I would like to ask, not to put you on the spot. Can you share a little bit about benefits, performing arts, the impact on children and people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And it is, by the way, not my career, but it is a huge passion of mine. It is my wife's career, her company. And I will say that I think in Londonderry we know pretty well the benefit of community activities and certainly of sports, as we celebrated the softball team this evening, which was a lot of fun. And we generally celebrate our music department, but often that's really just the marching band, which is amazing. But don't necessarily celebrate other parts of the arts within our schools as much as perhaps we could. We have the Concerts on the Common, which Larry was talking about earlier, which is amazing. But when it comes to theater and dramatic arts, we try to provide as much as we can at Ovation Theater Company, and there are other companies in the area that do things in our schools, but we're very limited because we don't have space. And the performing arts for young people represents an amazing way for them to express themselves, to learn creativity, to learn how to present themselves in public, skills that translate interpersonally into their entire lives. And for the community, it's entertainment. It's also hopefully edifying at times, and an opportunity for people to enjoy artistic expression, even for something as ridiculous as Little Shop of Horrors, like the shirt that I'm wearing today. and so there's both, you know, sort of education, cultural awareness, and then also just the edifying of both young and old in the community. Is my personal opinion.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frank Holdsworth, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Frank Holdsworth. I live on Sunday Lee Terrace. My wife and I bought that house in 1969, and we've been here ever since. So 55 years later, here I am. At the time, I was employed by the state of New Hampshire in the welfare division, and also as a part-time policeman here in town. A few years later, I was asked if I would like to go on full-time, and I did that for 23 years. Once I retired from the police department, I went to work for the building department for an additional 9 years. So I guess what I'm telling you is I know the town, I know the people in the town, and I know how to do the job. I have plenty of time now that I'm retired. I can devote it to the upgrade of that building. I certainly don't think it should be dismissed or dismantled or anything like that. It does need some repair work. And there's no doubt. I've been a Lion too. I don't want to hide that. I've been a Lion for 26 years, and when this whole thing took place, I was able to work with the town manager, Dave Woolley, get things done and get it done the right way, and that's where we stand now. I stand ready to do it. All you have to do is tell me that I made it.
All right. Any questions from the council?
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you.
And last, we have Kathy Wagner. Good evening.
Good evening. Kathleen Wagner, 12 McGregor Court right now, but 15 Parmenter, and I don't know how many people have driven down the road and 2 years ago saw a barn way up in the air. That's mine. And Steve and I are doing it as a labor of love because these buildings speak to you. And when I heard there was even a contemplation that we were talking about getting rid of, it's the meeting house. It's town hall. Do you understand that? It's our original town hall. Like, I'd rather tear down this place and put you guys over there. I mean, let's be figurative here. That was when people really had a say, was in that building. And that we're even contemplating talking about demolition or anything is kind of discouraging. But I understand. It's easier to raise history than to pay for history. I look at it this way. I'm on this committee to try to come up with a solution because I'm living with a 1772, 1840 barn. We are restoring. We had it lifted. We had a concrete foundation put under it to save it. I saw the one on Hovey Road is gone. They are hard to maintain. They are a money pit. I'm not kidding you. They are a money pit, but I think they're well worth our money to try to save, and I think we could save this in phases. I think I can bring a lot of the contractors I'm working with who have willingly said they would come for free. I think we need a structural engineer. I don't know if we've had a true structural engineer come in and look at it, or just a large company that says, oh, the electric panel doesn't look good, and that's going to cost you this. I read the report. There's a lot of things in there I totally disagree with. A lot of points, but we are the town, so we have little bit more freedom in certain areas. So that's part of the reason why I'm here, and a little bit of a brief history of how much I care about this town for living here for over 32 now years. The Roby House, anybody know what that is?
Of course, we're in the corner.
Right.
The CVS.
Save that. Anybody know where Buttrick Barn is now?
Yes.
Starbucks. Right. Anybody know where the Reynolds Barn is? Hall Road. Bill Longmead saved that. That was the Demolition Delay Committee that had a huge influence on all of that. Anyone know where the barn, the cow stanchion from the barn on High Range Road in Adams went? Ann?
Historical Society, 140 Pillsbury Road.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but you made my night tonight. I'm sorry, I should be addressing you guys, but this is kind of funny. You made my night tonight when you talked about Taco Bell and Kentucky Fried Chicken being the greatest thing coming. I served on the Heritage Commission and fought Yum Brands to make sure that it looked like that, because they wanted the craziest looking building you've ever seen. And I was demonized in the Union Leader and the editorial was entitled Taco Hell. So to talk about, I really care about this town, and that's part of the reason why I really want to be on the committee.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I have a couple of things here.
Please.
All right, so as we look at this committee and everything, and I've thought long and hard about how do we go forward here, because we've had a conversation that's been almost a year long. Combination of background, history, get it done attitude. We have people in here who have served on committees over 20 years, passion for protection, and how do we protect this property. What I'm listening for is people who are thinking outside the box and looking as an eye towards the future. So in listening to all of them, I see people with maintenance, with history, performance venues, people who are, raising their families here and have come back to town. So with that, I'd like to offer the following motion. I'd like to offer Mr. John Blay, Mr. Larry Casey, Mr. Derek Deanna, Ms. Kathy Wagner, and Mr. David Ellis as the 5 ad hoc full members. And for the 2 ad hoc alternate members, I'd like to offer Mr. Dan Gore and Mr. Frank Holdsworth, mainly including a lot of these people who understand venues looking towards the future. What do we use the building for? How do we look towards the future? How do we think outside the box? Bringing Mr. Holdsworth and Blay into it to bring that history from the use of the building over those 26 years that they participated. Mr. Deanna and his new ideas and his project management skills, bringing that forward. Mr. Ellis and his great level of detail that he does around history. And I believe the other people that came up and talked will probably participate in some way, but we need people who are going to get this done in like 3 months. And based on what I heard, I think they're my top selections, and I'd like to offer that as a motion.
Could you repeat it?
So you have John Blay,
Larry Casey, Derek Deanna, David Ellis, Kathy Wagner for the 5.
Yep.
And Frank Holdsworth and Dan Gore for the 2 ad hocs.
So I would just like to see, and
Mr. Chair, before we get to that, we've seen a lot of good applicants come up here, and there's going to be a lot of work that's going to have to be done with this committee. And I was just wondering if the council would be interested in entertaining, we expand this committee to 10 people, because there are 10 applicants here, and we can.
I would support 7 full and 3 alternate, if the council went for that.
The ideal size for a committee to get things done is 7. That's why the planning board is 7. So we can do whatever you want, but they have 3 months to get things done.
I think the utility committee works really well together. 7 and 3. I'm just as an example. I think they work really well. We get a lot done on the utility committee.
But this is a ad hoc. This is basically a 120-day committee. Put them in as 10, but you got to have 7 people. You can put as many alternates on as you want, but you've got to have 5 people who make a decision.
What's your thoughts?
I like the idea of expanding it. We had a lot of good people here tonight come up. They all volunteered. They all want to participate. I don't think I want to, I guess, we need volunteers in town to help us. And I personally believe that the more people will actually, we're going to have subcommittees, we can do different things together. And I think expanding it and taking advantage of all these different people that have different knowledge would be beneficial to the community.
Okay, so I have a motion from John for 5 plus the 2 for discussion.
As a matter of order, you probably have to change the committee.
The charge.
Change the charge and change the committee to add other people. And again, add as many alternates as you want, but you have to have a core group of people who are going to make a decision.
All right, so if I make a motion to change the committee.
We already have a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There's already a motion.
If I may,
John.
Mr. Chair, so I think the options are at this point are the motion is either withdrawn or you call for a second. And as Councilor Farrell pointed out, you have a pending motion. You need to the council needs to act on this motion.
All right, so I have a motion from John. Do I have a second? All right, motion dies for failure of a second.
Well, then you're not going to have a committee tonight. So you want to have a committee or don't you want to have a committee? You can change the charge and you can add alternates, but you have to change the charge and you have to do that as an agenda item.
And then, to your point, we now go from 120-day committee to even
Our next
shorter.
meeting's in
July.
30 days. I'm just trying to get this thing going.
Yeah, I'm not tied to expanding it. I'm not necessarily in favor of the same 5 people.
Yeah,
if
I
we're
would
gonna,
agree. If we're going to do 5, I want different.
I have different 5.
Yeah, I have different 5 too.
So is there a motion?
Let's see.
Yeah. I listen to the same interviews you guys listen to. I'm looking for people who are going to take this and get it done. I'm not looking to play favorites here or anything else. We have people from the Lions Hall. We have people from Performing Arts. We have people who have actually done this and raised buildings. It's great to have history, but history isn't going to get this done. Mr. Ellis is probably one of the best historians I've ever seen. And I think we're going to need a project manager on this. And one of the applicants is a project manager. That's my reasoning.
What about the other one?
What do you mean?
So you outlined Ellis, and I agree with you on the project manager, absolutely.
Remind me again, who's the project manager?
Derek Deanna.
Derek, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that fully stood out to me too.
So we look at it and I say, okay, Mr. Gore has the theater in the background. Mr. Casey has actually done things and created venues, and I'm just looking. Mr. Bouchard did an interview. Mr. Holdsworth has been between him and Mr. Blay. They've been maintaining the building. Ms. Wagner has actually raised buildings and done these projects. So I'm looking at it from a standpoint of who can get this done in 120 days. Not playing favorites, not talking about who's right or wrong or anything. I'm only looking at skill sets.
Yeah. So I mean, if we're trying to get through this, I guess.
And if you want to add the other 3, when you redo the charge, add the other 3. You can do that.
It's a good point.
I'm not trying to be difficult.
No.
So
I agree with you on most of them. I guess I would like to make a motion for Ann, Derek, David, Dan, and Kathy Wagner. So I agree with most of them, and then the rest as alternatives.
Who is it again?
Who would the alternatives be?
Well,
the rest.
Hold on a second.
No.
We can't do that.
Oh, we can't do that. Okay. Sorry.
We can't amend.
Who would your 2 alternates be?
Who are the 2?
Can we do the alternates in a separate motion? Because I would just like to get through who are
All right,
our
who's
full-time
your
members.
5 full-time
So I would say Ann, Derek, David, Dan, and Kathy.
Wait a minute.
Ann, Derek,
I
David.
just feel like we need a little
Kathy.
bit of the historical perspective.
And Derek, David, Kathy, and who else?
And Champa.
I have Ann Champa, Derek, David, Kathy. That's 4.
Oh, sorry. Ann, Derek, David, Dan, Kathy.
Okay. So you're excluding the people from the Lions Hall who occupied the place for the last 50 years.
This is part of the problem. Everybody's very qualified, and that's why.
So what I'm trying to say to you is, if you're going to exclude, these are the guys who occupied the place for the last 50 years and know the building inside and out, and you want 2 historians.
Who's the second historian?
Ann and David.
Yeah.
David. I'm only trying to be logical.
Yeah, no. You've got a good point there. I withdraw that.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to change, do we have the charge?
Yes, we
I
do,
do.
Mr.
Where's
Chair.
the charge?
Mr.
Do you want me to read it?
Counselor.
Let me see. Let me see the charge.
All right, you withdrew your motion?
Yeah.
I will.
Wait a minute. I think I can fix this. Hold on a second. Just give me one second.
Yeah, John's right on the 2 historians.
You know, I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time here. I'm just I'm trying to pick.
We're sorting it out.
Okay, this is a study committee. I don't think we need an agenda item for this if it's a study committee.
I think that's correct.
I think we can take this and change the charge and
On the fly?
on the fly, and we can change the number of members on the fly.
I think that's correct. I think that vote has to precede.
That's what I'm
installing
going to do. So I'm
members.
going to, so the Londonderry Lions Study Committee Town Council charge. So the purpose of the charge is to exist to research and make recommendations to Town Council regarding the use and restoration of buildings and maintenance funds of the Lions Hall. The motion is to change the representation from, I'll do it what you wanted, Ron.
Okay.
7 voting members to 3 alternate members to be appointed by the Town Council.
I'll second
That's
that.
my motion.
I'll
A
second.
motion, a second from John. All in favor to amend the charge, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. All right.
All right,
So
so
now
the charge is amended.
charge
Now,
is
there-
amendment. So 7 full-time
Yep.
and 3 alternate. Do I have a motion for the 7 full-time?
You can take the original 7 I gave you and just add the other 3. You can do it in any order you want.
Is that a motion?
I can make a motion.
May you please?
Motion that John Blay, Larry Casey, Derek Deanna, David Ellis, Kathy Wagner, Frank Holdsworth, and Dan Gore be the original 7, and that Dan Bouchard, Ray Breslin, and Ann Champa be the alternates.
All right. So I have a
With
motion.
the understanding that the charge is they need to bring us, understand that these members will need to bring us a recommendation no later than October 1st, 2024.
All right. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Let's see.
So I
I
have
like
a second
that. Yeah.
from Sean. All in favor of naming John, Larry, Derek, David, Dan, Frank, and Kathy as the ad hoc full member, and Dan Bouchard, Ray Breslin, and Ann Champa as the alternates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Do they need to be sworn in?
Yes.
Please see the town clerk to be sworn in. Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you very much.
It's a different position.
Different position. All right. Thank you very much for your volunteerism. All right, new business. Order 2024-07, the expenditure from the Expendable Maintenance Trust Fund, emergency replacement of hot water heater tanks in the North Fire Station. Director of Public Works, Mr. Walling, sir.
Good evening, Dave Wally, Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities. Approximately 2 weeks ago, we had a water leak develop in the North Fire Station, Station 1.
Thank you, John.
Which leaked into the electrical room and a little bit of the mechanical room. It was quickly isolated. This happened over the course of a weekend. It was isolated. There are 2 tanks there. They're indirect hot water supply tanks, 119 gallons each. So the good news is we were able to isolate one of them so that they remained having hot water, even though one of the valves was still leaking by, but we were able to contain it. And so in that time, we contacted our HVAC system company, E&E Systems of New Hampshire, and we still had, I felt like we had enough time to at least get another person to come in and give us a quote, which should be part of your packet there. I tried to secure a third, but was not able to get another company to come out in such short notice. But at least we did our due diligence there, even though we could have just went with E&E right out the gate. So you can see that there was a substantial savings anyhow. So that's good news also to just keep them in check.
So you're requesting $12,350 from the Expendable Maintenance Trust Fund?
That is correct, and the work was completed as of Monday.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions from the council? I have an order to adopt Order 2024-07.
So moved.
I have a motion from Ron. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Sean. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative. Any nay? Sorry. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 2024 as you were. So American Rescue Plan ARPA request. This is for the Londonderry Fire Department paramedic vehicle.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may quickly, and then the chief and deputy chief are going to come up. I just wanted to preview this by stating that, you know, we talk about the need to equip our public safety departments with the best equipment, the best training. That is an ongoing process. And you have before you tonight a request for up to $60,000 in ARPA funding. That is ARPA funding that's already on hand. The council will be well familiar with that at this point. And this is for an auto pulse and a ventilator. And the folks who actually know what those do can talk about those in a minute. But my understanding is they are critical pieces of safety equipment, life-saving equipment that are used every day. And it's important that we make these investments as we pivot towards making enhancements to our provision of advanced life-saving services to the community. That was really central to the Warren article that was adopted in March. And with that, I would turn it over to the chief.
Thank you, boss. So we're looking for monies or approval for ARPA to buy a Zoll AutoPulse, which is an automated CPR device. This is very critical because it allows our providers to put a patient in a device that does CPR automatically, uninterrupted, which is very important. So when we're going down a stairwell, if we're trying to get the patient from the bedroom out to the ambulance, oftentimes back in the day, CPR would get interrupted and seconds matter. What the AutoPulse allows us to do is hook the patient experiencing cardiac arrest into this machine, hit play, and it conducts the compressions at the right rate and the right depth without the providers having to do anything other than hook it up. So it helps with blood flow to the heart and the brain. We have one now. They're outfitted all our stuff, and they're truly a critical piece of equipment. And then the other one is a automatic ventilator to provide oxygen to patients that need it desperately. And those are the two pieces of life-saving equipment that we're looking to purchase through the up to $60K through ARPA.
So similar, not that this is different, but similar to the playground, we authorized up to a certain amount. And,
correct.
And the goal would be to try to come under that.
Yes, sir.
If possible.
That's right. And the reason for the imprecision is just that these quotes, you know, the quote wasn't from like yesterday.
It was some time ago. So we're taking into account the inflation to make sure that we're on target.
And any questions from the council or comments? You just need a consensus?
Yeah, a consensus is sufficient. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Good to go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
ARPA requests from Londonderry Police Department tasers. Regarding tasers, I believe you guys have a presentation.
Yes, and if I can preview this one briefly again, Mr. Chair, just to put it in proper context so that you'll hear from the police department here in a minute. They are going to provide you an update on a couple of different things before they get into the taser request. But I would like to say this. You know, again, we talk about equipping our public safety departments with the very best, and in the police world, ensuring that they have all the tools available to them, not only to protect themselves, but also potentially to save the life of a member of the public who might be experiencing a mental health crisis. This is a tool that potentially will allow the police department to do that. They are not inexpensive, and they entail not only the initial investment in the equipment, but the training, service that is ongoing, and the chief will talk about that. From a dollars and cents standpoint, we are talking about $320,000 of investment over a 5-year time frame. But because we have a healthy ARPA balance that remains on hand, and that's really what ARPA is all about, allowing us to make these investments, defraying the burden that may fall on the taxpayer, we suggest that the council has a couple of different options here tonight. There is a request for $200,000 in ARPA funding to defray that $320,000 5-year expense significantly. And there is the opportunity to utilize $120,000 from the general fund because we're able to do that at this point in time. Through careful budgetary management, we are able to do that. The alternative would be the council could do everything from what I just outlined, which is the request, to saying, thanks but no thanks. We'll pass on the ARPA, we'll pass on the general fund expenditure, and stretch this out over 5 years, $64,000 a year. I can circle back to this after and get the input of the finance director as well, but I want the council to have the opportunity to hear from the chief, hear about the importance of this as a tool in their toolbox, if you will. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chief.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager.
Chief.
Gentlemen, good evening. First and foremost, while that was a great breakdown, I appreciate that, there's something far more important that I want to share. At the end of this week, we will be losing a 42-year employee from the Londonderry Police Department. Dee Saucier is retiring. She was hired here in 1982. Dee is going to move on from here. She will be missed. It's going to be a sad day on Thursday, her last day of employment. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We always hear about talking about employee accolades. That's pretty impressive. Londonderry, we talk about how our employees stay and how they're appreciated. And I want you guys to know that Dee is a very private person. She wouldn't want to be here because she likes her privacy. But I did tell her I was going to talk about her and say how amazing she is. And I'm sure you guys at some point will be able to express your thanks for her service. So just want to share that with you.
Thank you, Dee.
Next, if I could, I'm going to go to the Old Mammoth Road quick update. It was brought to my attention that we're due for an update on Old Mammoth Road, and I'd like to start off by saying thank you to the DPW Director, Dave Wally, and his staff for committing the time and the resources available to this project through many meetings, sitting through traffic safety. This was a tough decision, lots of potential solutions to this, and we believe that this was the best one for the town and for the residents of North Mammoth Road there. So, Mike, would you be able to hit that one thing for me, please? No, the Facebook thing, the video on Old Mammoth.
Yep.
So
that's this.
Lieutenant Garrett Malloy put together this for our citizens and the local commuters, and I thought he did an outstanding job. I'd like to highlight this for those of you who have not seen it. It's a real quick 1-minute clip or just about. He's not going that fast, by the way. As you can see here, here's the first stop sign that was installed left and right. Second one right here, left and right, left of the senior center, and right in front. And another one right here. And then we're proceeding, as you can tell, to the intersection that gets talked about quite a bit in all these meetings.
So, Chief, how many people have we educated since we put
So,
this in?
the men and women of
I
LP.
didn't ask if we pulled anybody over. I just asked if we educated.
Well, we may have stopped a resident or two. The officers who are responding to this directed patrol, we've been doing this now for about 3 weeks. The deputy chief put it out. We put these out for all 3 shifts. So like everything else, when it's new, it's going to take some time for people to get used to it. The residents may love it. Some may not. I think these are some of the things that we often talk about in town council meetings, as we have shared before, sir. Bringing ideas together, listen to each other, try and build each other up, fix the problem, don't tear each other down, and let's be able to move on. And I think this is the goal here with the combination of the Traffic Safety Committee, the support of you folks, and our DPW team. So I want to highlight that. We're going to be after this for a while. People have walked up to officers and also been stopped by them. They said it's great. So far, so good, but we'll see. We'll come back in like 6 months or so and give you guys another update on how it's going.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Next, the dispatch remodel project. For those of you that recall, about last year, 7 months back, I had come up to you folks asking about ARPA funds. I'd asked to talk to you guys about the COPS grant. The COPS grant was awarded to Londonderry PD through Congressman Pappas's office for $75,000. Again, as you guys are all aware, that's free money in our eyes, and that's what we all like to hear. What is this project going to cost? So what I'd like to talk about is where we're at today with the dispatch remodel project. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. This is what it started back when the building was built in 2004. I'm going to say this right now, and I'll probably say it many times throughout this presentation. In October, it's 20 years. That's how old this building is. You walk through there today, tomorrow, or 5 years from now, you will all be amazed and question, could it really be this old? The next slide is what we're doing here. The reason why we did it, obviously, was the grant. At that time, Captain Cheatham was in the services division. This grant came up. We talked about it, and you guys were in support of it. We had an aging technology in that building. They were outgrowing the space. It was a small workstation. As you can see here, this is the entrance from the hallway, the secured side, obviously, leaving records, walking into dispatch. The original design, I guess 20 years ago, that was probably good. It was a waste of space in a lot of their opinions. Much needed room in there for expansion. We had a difficult time. There used to be like a Lazy Susan in the middle back in the day. It really wasn't the best layout. But like you guys had just talked about with the old Lions Hall thing, we probably didn't have the oversight in it that we should have. Well, lucky for us, when we talk about, as John has said for a decade or more as the chairman, we hire the right people. We give them the best training. We give them the best equipment. And last but not least, we always take out the trash. We've heard that for years on end. And one of the biggest highlights for this project, I want to point to this man over here in that beautiful Londonderry Police blue shirt, J.R. Valenti. J.R. is our project manager. He is our building extraordinaire. He is our contractor genius. He is everything that is amazing about building. This man has spent countless hours reviewing, supervising, mentoring some at best who contractors gave us what they believed was their best people. But JR was there to always find the mistakes and fix them, point them how to fix them. We'll go to the next slide, please. Through JR's expertise and all of his support and guidance that he has given us, we thought that the best man to do the demo and save us a boatload of money was JR. So here's a photo shot of JR's beginning process of demolishing the dispatch center. JR also, as you can tell, maybe you don't know, but to me that's a clean job site. At the end of every day, JR would dust, sweep, clean up, wrap up wires, save conduit, save electrical, whatever he could, receptacles, you name it. This man has saved the PD, and I'll get to that at the end because it's beautiful, a boatload of money. The work that he did, you would be amazed. You would be amazed that one man can do all this. And I told him I was going to highlight him tonight because it's true. We always talk about how Londonderry leads the way. This is one of them. And JR, if you go to the next slide, you can see here patchwork in the sheetrock, electrical, plumbing. JR did all of this. We put in a new ceiling. The ceiling, as you'll see from the next slide, acoustic ceiling and flooring. So we upgraded the ceiling to be more sound absorbent. We got rid of the tubing, the old lighting, which was a waste of energy. You guys can appreciate that. We're always trying to find ways to save on our electric bill. We put in LED lights, dimmable. Every dispatcher likes their lighting conditions different. We repainted. We went with the new LPD blue throughout as we started upstairs last year in the admin offices. We used this nice flat gray, high-end commercial rubberized flooring that looks like plank wood, and then industrial grade carpet as well for sound dampening and comfort for dispatchers while they're working in there. This is what the layout is going to look like now. So the old dispatch center was more towards the middle. We decided to blow it out, wrap it around the walls. We added TVs, which are actually monitors, but we added these monitors around the room for 365-degree view. So no matter who is sitting where, we have full access, we as in the dispatchers, have access to what's going on in the PD and around the PD. We'll be able to have monitor screens up there. So if there's an incident and the watch commander comes in, he can go up in there and he can see exactly what's going on and who's where and what we're providing for service to the community. The other thing about this room here that I'll talk about, if you recall, was when I brought this to your attention, we created extra workspace stations. And as it was said earlier today, being creative and finding ways to generate revenue. I can't promise you that I can, but my attempt with this project was to build it out for the future. We would like to, at some point in the near future, approach other organizations, police departments, that pay their dispatching service to somebody else. So I would like to offer this up when the time comes as a way to generate revenue for the town of Londonderry. Our dispatchers are amazing. This workstation station and place is amazing. The reviews that we have received from employees, it's unbelievable. I had the town manager and the assistant town manager walk through there recently. Now that the workstations are almost complete, we're about a week out, maybe 2 at tops, from getting this to full-time use again. So the next slide, if there is one. So as you can see here, this is what the workstations look like up close. We have some low-light LED blue lighting around for a nice professional police ambiance. Blue is amazing. And I believe that is the last slide there. So as we discussed back then, it was the COPS grant through Pappas's office, the ARPA funds we received from the town, and we had about $10,000 that we utilized from our building maintenance project, or our building maintenance fund. All in all, the project was about $135,000. I don't know about you, but you can't get that anywhere else. I think that was a great use of the money for the ARPA. I think this is a prime example of the town council supporting the employees. This is unbelievable. The best part about this whole thing, if JR didn't do all this, we'd have to have a contractor. We'd have to have a demo crew to come in and do that. All these added costs, this man right here, not only is he an employee, he's also a resident. This man saved us upwards of $75,000. This would have been over a $200,000 project, if not for him, and if not for you folks. So I just want to say thank you to you folks for supporting us, for supporting the community by allowing us to use the funds to get a better dispatch center and update it for the first time in 20 years. And I want to also thank the town manager and assistant town manager for constantly supporting the men and women of your Londonderry Police Department. So thank you all, and thank you, JR. Thank you.
Thank you, JR.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now for the fun part. So, Captain O'Donohue, you want to step up front, please? So Captain O'Donohue is going to take this out, and he's going to tase one person. Whoever volunteers to get shot right now is going to get a free ride. Nobody? You're too willing. Actually, we're just kidding. No one is going to get tased. This is just a demo that we brought in to show you what we're going to pass around so you guys can see it. as we
Actually,
begin to talk.
Chief, if I may,
Please.
we're trying to enhance Old Home Day this year and draw more people down to the town
I know
common.
where you're going.
In the past, we've had a dunk tank, but I think this year we might draw like 50,000 people if we had a Tase the Town Manager event.
I'm not one to bet money on this, but I bet you that would raise a heck of a lot of money.
Proceeds to
Raise
charity.
enough funds for the Reverend Morrison House.
It might actually cover the whole cost. Don't know. Went up to this, once. So, if we can hit the first slide, please.
Those people who voted no or yes.
Right. Yeah.
So
I can't
remember the number, but
which way were you supposed to vote?
So Captain O'Donohue is going to show you the taser, and he will.
Just, it is an inert cartridge, so this thing is not operational, so you can't do anything.
It's all for looks. So, gentlemen, so as you can see by the slide, that's exactly right. That's just they built that just for Mike's awareness. So when he hears that, he better run. So
that's a safety, correct? That's what I was.
Yeah. So when you press up, there's a selector level or safety.
So Ron, what's that bill you had at the State House?
The audible.
I was just curious. Well, never mind.
Yeah. Handle with care.
The audible sound that you heard was by design. It's to promote de-escalation.
Okay.
So it does two things.
So they know it's armed.
So the subject knows it's armed, then to the other officers, it alerts me that, hey, that's a taser, so I don't get any weapon confusion.
Yeah, no accidental discharge either. That it's
right.
there.
So if a fellow officer pulls that out, I hear it, I'm like, oh, he's got a taser.
Yeah.
Subject hears it, he's like, oh, I might get tased.
Yeah.
So I wanted you guys to see that and obviously make light of it before we begin. So thank you, and thank you, Captain Cheatham, for volunteering first. So what is a taser? It's a portable device, and it's used to de-escalate, as you'll see here momentarily. And as I squint to do the best I can, it's to gain compliance and overcome resistance. As you guys have seen in the media and everywhere else, we talk about de-escalation, officers going hands-on. We try to avoid, as you guys know, any potential liability in use of force scenarios or situations. How does it work? It deploys small barbed probes. They puncture the skin. So it's like fishing line, if you would, but it's a copper wire. And when the officer does his training appropriately, this barb will be deployed, and it will stick into the person, causing temporary, freezing of nature of your muscles, to keep it simple. We'll hit the next slide. So this right here, not that anybody cares, but this is the newest version. This is called Taser 10. There's many versions, but this is the one that we would be getting at this moment in time. So the Taser uses 1,000 volts. It has 10 little charges in there. Each volt has the impact probe, as I said earlier. The lumens light up a green light. As you heard the audible, you guys heard that a moment ago. They're rechargeable batteries. Nobody cares in this room about a warranty, but we got a warranty on there. We'll hit the next one. So this is of interest. We often talk about how we lead the way in some things, and I'm embarrassed to say we don't lead the way in this one. This is one of the things that was shocking to me. Back in January, I attended the director of the Police Academy's annual Chiefs Address, where we go up there and we listen to the director talk about all things chiefy, if you would. And one of the things that we talked about in this meeting was how many people still use batons or an ASP. So I looked around the room and no one's raising their hand, and I did. So apparently, the survey that was conducted says that 98% of law enforcement agencies use tasers. So we are old school. We're not even up to date here. So the effective de-escalation tool in modern policing, the taser weapons have been used over 5 million times, as you can see from that study, and it's 99.75% resulted with no injury. Now, there's lots of other things that can happen in injuries with a baton. You get injured with OC. You can get injured ground fighting or taking the subject to the ground. So anticipating the future needs, a healthcare study put that taser, a device, de-escalated 80% of situations without the need for use of force, considering it's the most effective de-escalation tool for hospitals. Now, that name or that word should ring a bell. We're trying to think of the future for our officers. What do we need? What tools do we need to give them so they can successfully complete the task at hand? And again, we've said this time and time again, we hire the best people, we train them, we give them the best stuff, and we pick up the trash. This is one of those things that I think that we need to give our employees a tool to finish, complete, perform, whatever you want to call it, the job at hand. It's so important. The next slide, please. Some important things to see here is the energy weapon, 90% of the time, is effective versus 73% of the time with OC spray. Just an example real quick to jump in this so I don't kill you by PowerPoint is if you open a can or disperse OC in a room like this, everybody's evacuated. If we did that in a school, in a gymnasium, in a hospital, in an urgent care, everybody's out. This right here is a good stat for you to consider too. The odds of suspects needing medical attention for an injury is reduced by 79%. And the odds of an officer needing medical attention is reduced by 87%. A lot of these statistics we could check with Primex too, and how many officers involved in use of force situations and get hurt. A rotator cuff, tear a bicep, ankles, knees, I mean the list goes on. And as always, we want our employees to be safe. We want our employees to go out there and do the job without hurting themselves or others. I think this is another great tool that we can give them to do that. If we can hit the next one. Wow, that's a big one. So here's what the questions are going to be. I can see it already. Why now? So the answer is simple. Why didn't we do it before? We didn't do it before, and people are going to say, well, our use of forces, our hands-on situations were probably not that great. Well, that is true. Well, this is Londonderry. Nothing happens in Londonderry. That is not true. That is not true at all. Londonderry, much like every other community, we have our bad calls. We have our really bad calls. And we're always one call away from the worst call. So I can tell you that out of the 37,000 plus calls we had last year, 680 arrests, 31 use of force. We had 3 injured officers and 3 injured people. Not to say that that can't get greater. It could be less. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to have an officer-involved shooting. I don't want it to happen. But if we did, was there an alternative available? And not to get emotional or say things that might offend people, I will never leave the men and women of LPD high and dry without the equipment that they need to be safe and perform their duty. If anything ever were to happen, you know who's being called on the carpet. It's going to be me. They're going to say, how long? Why? Why didn't you? Someone is dead because an officer had to use a gun instead of a taser. If an officer had the option, maybe the taser would save the person's life. What if it's someone dealing with a mental health crisis who is not taking their medication, who does not want to comply? You force an officer into that situation instantly. An officer is going to contemplate, if I shoot this person and kill them, am I justified? The person now is going to be saying, oh gosh, if I don't do something, what happens to me? Why would we do that to our people? Why would we do that to the employees that we often talk about are so important to the operation of this town from day to day? And I would stand up here and say that I failed, that I didn't take this opportunity to give them equipment. I will never stand up here and fail the men and women of LPD. Never. So I'm asking you folks, as leaders of our town council, to support the recommendation for the first time in LPD's history to get up with the times and give us the tools that they need to perform the function of a Londonderry police officer effectively going forward. Anybody have anything on tasers at all?
Questions or comments from the council? So, Chief, my sister's in law enforcement. She's deployed her taser multiple times. It is highly effective. It is also a great de-escalation, as we learned with Counselor Faber very quickly, or Counselor Faber learned. It's something you don't want to hold on, or merely just taking off the cartridge and tapping the trigger a couple times and showing the voltage. So thank you for for your continued dedication to equip our law enforcement officers in the community. And how much, I do have a question.
Sure.
What is the ARPA balance? Might be a question for Justin.
So the remaining balance that is not earmarked for various things, such as the playground, the water project, the $60,000 that was just approved, you're looking at about $275,000.
So to pivot from, or to tag along what you were saying earlier, Mike and Chief, the request is for $320,000 for a 5-year commitment.
Yes, sir.
This includes training, trainer, the training, the actual outfit of the tasers, warranty, replacement, chargers, all the other stuff that we need.
As well as, I guess you call it iCloud storage. So it's always monitored. So that's all part of it as well.
And Justin, what's the balance again?
So it's about $275K. It's between $275 and $298. And the reason I'm giving you that delta is we have several projects that I believe will be coming in under what was initially requested.
So how are we going to make up that extra? If the council gives a consensus, where's that extra $45,000
I don't know
come
why
from?
we're using all the ARPA funds. Why don't we pay for it as we go? I mean, use the money for the ARPA funds for the unbudgeted budget we're going into, and then let it roll into default.
That is an option. That is absolutely an option.
Can we raise it at Old Home Day with Shooting Mike? I mean, that was on the table 5 minutes ago. It's not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the ARPA funds for something else. I mean, this is an ongoing operational maintenance type of thing. It should roll into default.
In case you're going to say that next, Mr. Chairman. So, for example, let's say it's year 6. Year 6 rolls around, and hypothetically, Taser is only at Taser 12. And let's say that Taser 12 isn't that great or that much more advanced. We'll manage what we have. There are options in later years where you can do a buyback if you would. So if the technology got a lot better and we needed to upgrade, they would buy back, give us an X amount of dollar for these. We would apply it to the new one. But so, for example, if it's year 6 and we're still good, we're content, we know that I'm frugal on these things. So we know that come year 6, our maintenance cost is, $68,000 thereafter. So the important thing to remember here is that, as the chairman said, is we got to start planning for these things for the future. Nobody likes surprises. And that's why we're talking about this now, so we can get ahead of it, come up with a plan, and whatever plan that you folks decide to implement is the plan that we'll follow through and happily do it.
So if we go the plan, just so I can gain the best understanding, so if we go the plan of an annual, John, are you proposing the 64 for, is it six, just clarification, is it 64 if we do an annual thing? Is that for the first year?
I think it's 68.
Or is there an initial build out?
Approximately $65,000 a year.
Call it $75,000, just to make the numbers easy.
And if I could just,
do $75,000
from ARPA.
Well, this is an operational expense.
Yeah,
it's not really a capital expense. I think ARPA was more designed for capital expenses.
Infrastructure, although they have a very expansive definition of, I'm not sure, Justin, if you want to weigh in on this. The only thing I'll say before I kick it over to Justin is, we will certainly find another use for the ARPA funds, but if we don't use the ARPA funds, we have to send them back.
I understand that. That's why I'm saying maximize the use of the ARPA funds. Give them the money they need for what's not budgeted for next year. It's operational. Mm-hmm. Operational expenses should be part of the budget and should roll as part of default, in my opinion. That's the way it's designed to work. We're supposed to put operational dollars in operational budgets.
I would agree with that.
Justin, you were going to say something?
So ARPA has changed its, they're in their 6th, I believe, interim final rule, which is a hyperbole with interim and final. But essentially, it is for general governmental purposes, is what they have declared anybody that received under $10,000 or $10 million in ARPA funds that they can utilize it for general governmental purposes with a preference towards infrastructure.
So it's definitely operational. It's definitely general purposes.
So I
I'm
guess
always
one
of the opinion that the people of the community should, if you're going to change operational pieces, the taxpayers should pay for those services out into the future.
One question just for the finance director. So in year one, if we were to finance it over the course of 5 years, in year one we would need, or I guess in 25 we would need to absorb that initial amount, correct? Because it is not currently budgeted for?
Correct. I think that's what Councilor Farrer is recommending is I have $64,086.18 for what it would cost year one.
Yeah, see, so what I'm saying is that if you use the ARPA funds and everything, what you're really doing is you're putting an arbitrary budget together. You're going to run out of these funds 3 to 4 years out, and then you're going to have to find $64,000 or $65,000 when it doesn't apply the default.
Correct. So my and I think what you're saying is, and I would agree with it, is that we should, if the council decides to go with what you're suggesting, the council should approve ARPA funds in year one in the amount of $64,000, and then let it become part of default.
That would be, everybody keeps talking about transparency all the time. That's the most transparent way to do it. You're gonna see the actual line item in the budget, and you're gonna see that going forward. Versus 3 to 4 years out in the line, and we're like, what was that $65,000 for?
That's right.
And then who's gonna explain that? Because we may not be here to explain it.
What is the time frame for purchase, training, use?
So the time frame to purchase would be whenever we get the approval, excuse me, from the town council. So what we would do then is the instructors that are selected would be trained, and then they in turn would come back and they would train the staff. We would try to maximize the on-duty people, as you can imagine, as you guys are well versed with. We try to limit the overtime as much as possible with shifting the trainers around, minimizing, for example, midnight guys would shift them over and vice versa. So that would be the direction. Again, time frame, I guess, depends on what we do here tonight.
Well, the fiscal year's almost over, so it's going to be next year's budget.
So, I personally would be fine doing it that way. Use ARPA for year one. I'd like to say up to 70,000.
I was going to say the number I just got, the number I gave you was based on a discount for paying up front. So that number changes when we don't pay up front in total.
What's the discount if you pay up front?
I think it was a full 70%.
Okay, thank you.
So that number changes from $64,086 to $64,182.
What does the council want to do?
I made my suggestion, so it's whatever you guys want to do.
So we save 7% if we do it all at once?
No, they gave us a full 7% discount. The discount we were receiving was like 6 and change.
Okay.
We pressured them to see if I could go more, and they gave us up to 7%.
Okay.
It's not significant.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
Well, we just need a consensus. We don't need a motion.
I agree with John. I think doing ARPA for year one and then include in the operational budget. So just
I like
increase your budget 65,000, however much, for FY 26 and beyond.
I definitely like the transparency doing it your way. I guess we miss out on the 7%, so that part's.
Yeah, that was my only
But I do like the transparency of putting it in the budget and having it in the default. So.
If I'm right, so I think Justin, maybe I'm outside my depth here, but I think you have to consider that we will. Yes, there's a savings of 7%, but we also will have.
That's today.
We don't have to part with our money now. We'll have it, and given the investment performance that has been frankly off the charts, it'll more than absorb that 7%. Justin won't guarantee that, but sitting here today, just in the next year, even if there are significant interest rate, it's going to be offset.
But regardless, giving the consensus of the ARPA use for year one will allow you to move forward tomorrow.
So What if you give the consensus for fiscal year 25?
Yeah, which is July 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have enough of a surplus where I very confidently believe that this year the police department can absorb that 65. We'll schedule it where we pay that first one before June 30th. Then we'll pay the next one before December. That way we're taking advantage of the surplus we currently have and then accounting for it next year through ARPA. And then we're able to work it into the budget as you guys recommend.
Why do you propose it that way?
Because he has the money.
Yeah.
'Cause he has-
That's, yes.
Yeah. I like that.
And if
do it
we're
that
going to be
way.
doing it
I like
anyways,
that.
I feel like this is a good use for it if you guys are on board
Let's
with that.
ask the chief, do you see any issue with that financially?
I don't,
Okay.
because I trust Justin's numbers, and I trust Justin's wisdom all the time.
All right.
Thank you, Justin. All right. I say we go with Justin.
Yes.
All right, so we'll do FY24 out of the current budget.
Yeah.
FY25 up to 70,000 for ARPA.
Perfect.
And then roll it in for FY26 and beyond into operating budget.
And Mr. Chair, if I can ask one clarifying question of the finance director. So are we covered in terms of ARPA's competitive purchasing requirements for that $64,000 payment in 25?
So in talking with Chief Bernard, this is the only dog in the show, I guess. The only,
sole source. I have that documentation.
yeah.
Okay.
So there is no other way to purchase a police taser without going through them, so that would meet the qualifications for ARPA.
Thank you.
All right.
Perfect.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this evening. I appreciate it, as do the men and women of your police department.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good presentation. All right, folks, moving on. Resolution 2024-15. We have a first reading for the adoption of the New Hampshire Paid Family and Medical Leave Policy.
Motion to waive first reading.
I have a motion to waive. Do I have a second? I have
Second.
A second. All in favor from a motion from John, second from Sean. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Resolution motion passes. Resolution 2024-16. Update.
Motion to waive.
A motion to waive first reading. A second from Sean. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Resolution 2024-17, dissolving the pickleball committee.
Motion to dissolve.
All right, I
Second.
have a motion from John, a second from Ron. All in favor say aye.
You guys want to get out of here?
We have a Celtics game tonight or what? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend you take the next all the motions, the remainder of the resolutions as one motion.
All right. Can we do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Resolution just stated as resolution 2024 18 through 21, and ask the finance director if he has any explanation.
All right. So resolution 2024.
Well, the Celtic game's on.
Yes, I know. Couldn't tell. 18 through 21. Mr. Campo, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope. These are Stanton Foundation. They gave us additional money to help with the training of the police dogs. The Homeland Securities that we receive annually. The fellowship is a new process where NHGFOA offered us $9,000 to bring on a college intern to the finance department. So we got it for free. And I said yes. As long as you guys say yes.
All right.
I do have a question just to do due diligence on this. There's no added cost to the default budget down the road. These are all just
The only potential added cost would be on the Stanton Foundation, but that would already be accounted for.
Okay.
Because we already have the dogs, this was essentially them offering us additional funding to cover some of the excess costs.
Thank you.
All right.
So moved on all resolutions.
Second. All right. First and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Chair votes in. Any opposed? Chair votes in affirmative. Resolution 2024-18 through 21 is adopted. Public hearings. I have motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, or motion a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair. Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. So the amendment of the stormwater ordinance and stormwater regulations. Director of Engineering John Schroeder. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. This will be pretty brief. Good evening. My name is John Trotter. I'm the Director of Engineering and Environmental Services for the town of Londonderry. I'm here this evening to present ordinance 2024-03, which is an amendment to the current stormwater ordinance. The town's current stormwater ordinance was originally adopted in September of 2019. At that time, we also adopted stormwater regulations. The regulations are supplemental to the stormwater ordinance, and it provides a detailed guidance for the means and methods of carrying out the purposes of the stormwater ordinance. The stormwater ordinance is actually a component of the town of Londonderry's MS4 permit that is regulated by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the US EPA. The MS4 permit pertains to surface water quality. As you know, a number of residents are always concerned about that, and so is the United States EPA as well as the community. A little background on clean water. The Federal Clean Water Act of 1972 focused on wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Those upgrades were performed because most wastewater treatment facility discharges were poor and flowed into rivers and surface waters, thus contaminating those rivers. In 1987, the Federal Clean Water Act was amended and focused on stormwater and stormwater runoff. So, a couple simple questions. What is stormwater runoff? Stormwater runoff is generated from rain and snow melt that flows over land or over impervious surfaces. And why is runoff a problem? Runoff picks up pollutants that can harm rivers, streams, ponds. Population growth and the development of urbanized areas are major contributors to the amount of pollutants in the runoff, as well as the volume and rate of runoff from impervious surfaces. And basically, we always use a lot of acronyms with the EPA and in the federal government. What is an MS4 community? MS4 is the acronym for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems, thus the 4 S's. So, an MS4 is a conveyance or a system of conveyances that is publicly owned and operated that discharges to the waters of the U.S., designed or used to collect or convey stormwater through storm drains, pipes, and ditches. It is not a combined sewer and not part of the wastewater treatment facility or publicly owned treatment works. Town of Londonderry does not have any combined sewer systems here in town. City of Manchester does, City of Nashua. That's definitely a major problem when they have a rainstorm and they combine through the collection system. They combine and basically sanitary sewer gets combined with rainwater and is discharged into the surface waters.
So, John, what you're essentially and reviewing the packet, you're essentially looking to take our current regulations up to date to meet the state and federal standards, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And if it was that simple, I can stop now.
It is that simple.
It is that
It
simple.
is that simple.
He has to do it. That's not the
Correct.
simple part.
So being
this
that
is more or less to educate people, and
Yeah.
I see everybody's,
So being that this is a public hearing, is there anyone that'd like to comment on ordinance 2024-03? All right, council?
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you, Mr. Trotter.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Approval of minutes, the June 3rd, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
June 3rd, 2024. We have a motion from Sean, second from Ron. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Liaison reports. Are there any?
I have one quick one.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, feel free.
No, just myself, Sean, and Mike had the pleasure of welcoming Breezeway Airlines to Londonderry on Friday, and I just want to let everyone know that it went well and it was a good celebration.
Heard it was a very cool behind the
Yeah,
scenes
it was.
tour.
It was very good. And thank you to the PD for the tour behind the scenes. That was excellent.
This is not a liaison report. Let me be clear. Legal update. It's the silliness. I have to attend the ZBA meeting this week. Feel free to attend if you want to speak on behalf of Fish and Game's variance as the council, that we are supportive of it and that it was an oversight. We are still we have the first draft of the agreements with Arcadia Health, and we're working through the first iteration. We're not close right now. Kind of leave it at that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, from the planning board, there was some discussion about just speed, particularly on
Gilchrist.
Thank you. Why couldn't I remember? On Gilchrist Road, and they wanted us to be aware of that, and it's something that we may need to address in the future.
I attended the last school board meeting. There was a lot of discussion regarding the logo, branding. That also the chairman of the school board addressed a potential opportunity of expanding their footprint and purchasing property known as the Dartmouth Medical Center on 6 Buttrick Road in Londonderry. The board asked the superintendent to look into that, do essentially a small feasibility, move the LEAP 3 and 4 to that building, the Dartmouth, known as Dartmouth Medical Center, as well as move the district office from Kitty Hawk down to that building. For a significant amount lower than what it was on the ballot this past March. I'm sure there'll be more updates from the superintendent and to the school board, but that was essentially that. And there's also a lot of adopted policies that were just out of date, purchasing policies and other policies as well. So. Town manager, any other liaison reports? Town manager report.
Lightning round tonight, Mr. Chair. I've got a town, we talked, this has been publicized for a bit. Town hall with me, the town manager, tomorrow at the senior center at 2 p.m.
Getting tased?
I'm sorry?
Are you getting tased tomorrow?
There's going to be a surprise. No, we'll save that for Old Home Day. And I've said this, there's been a lot of discussion about public comment. But one thing is clear. However you structure public comment, however many or few restrictions you have on public comment, it's not a conducive forum for a conversation, for deep conversations, for informal conversations. That's what a town hall is for. So people who have questions for me, I'll be at the Senior Center tomorrow at 2 p.m. We'll take any and all questions, and we'll schedule other events in the near future. I wanted to provide an update about something that has also gotten a lot of attention recently, and that is there was a warrant article to this effect recording the meetings of boards and commissions. I'm happy to report to you that we've been responsive, as I have indicated, to the public. The Recreation and Old Home Day meetings were recorded last week, and Beautify Londonderry was recorded tonight. The cemetery trustees will be recorded on Thursday. What I want the public and the council to understand is we are doing these recordings, but it is not instantaneous that we can get all of these up on the website, but we've captured the recordings. They will be uploaded in a timely fashion, and we thank the public for providing that feedback and for understanding that these things are not instantaneous. And then finally...
If you can in the future, provide us with what the additional cost is that we're incurring
certainly
to record all these meetings, because things don't get done for free.
Things are not free. That is for sure. And then lastly, there's again something that has attracted a lot of attention in the last 5 or so days, I would say. There have been some issues with our trash and recycling pickup. We are aware of those issues. We have made it very clear to our vendor that these issues are unacceptable. They are due to some labor issues. But regardless, still not acceptable. We are working on them. We have seen an improvement in the last couple of days, and I am confident that that issue will be much improved going forward. And that is all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Assistant Town Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you're well aware, the Planning Board has been moving forward with their master plan update process, including the steering committee. So as I understand it, the council would like Councilor Faber to represent on the steering committee.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to have just a discussion. We don't need a vote, but just a discussion regarding the Master Plan Steering Committee. So Sean does currently sit on the planning board as our ad hoc member.
Ex
Ex-officiano, sorry.
Ex-officiano?
Right. Yeah, it's been a long day, all right?
Is that like Italian?
Just wanted a conversation or consensus.
As long as he understands what he's getting himself involved in, it's bigger. It's bigger than a breadbasket. You know, I mean, it's more than what it looks like.
The ex-officiano.
I'm fine with it.
First one, John. You
Yeah,
good?
as long as he knows what he's getting himself into.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then-
what do you need?
Nope, nothing
Okay.
else regarding that. And then just to reiterate what Councilor Faber raised regarding Gilchrist Road, the planning board formally requested that I bring this to the council, specifically asking that we skip the traffic safety committee process, if you will, and bring this these concerns directly to the council regarding Gilchrist Road traffic, speed, etc.
Suggestion. There's a lot.
Well, I would suggest that they're formally bringing something to the council, that they bring us what they think the resolution is.
Absolutely.
And not just drop it here. I mean, it's okay to go past the traffic safety committee, and we have the authority to change, but what is it that they would like?
Yeah.
Great question. And then lastly, I will be filling a recently vacant seat on the Greater Londonderry Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Thanks to our town manager leaving that.
Happy to hear.
That's all I have.
And find a better person. All right, folks. Any other comments from anyone beyond this? Seeing none.
It's a 34:22.
Make a motion to adjourn.
With
34:22. Sorry,
27 seconds to go in the second.
So I have
quarter.
a motion from Ron to adjourn. Do I have a second from Sean? Folks, our next meeting is July 15th here in the Moose Hill Council Chambers at 7 p.m. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes affirmative. We are adjourned. Good evening, folks.